Welcome back, guys. It's week number 3, and let's see what things I managed to get done and what I couldn't. So, first up, let's jump straight into Blender. For the first project this week, I tried making a sofa. It looked terrifyingly difficult at first, but it actually turned out to be pretty easy. All you really had to do was start with a cube, flatten it, and apply an array modifier. After that, add a bunch of loop cuts or subdivisions to give it more geometry and detail. Then comes the interesting part. Add a cloth simulation, but set the pressure value to 1 and gravity to 0 so the mesh doesn't fall. Once that's done, play the animation in object mode and look for a frame that gives you a nice cushion like shape. When you find one you like, just apply the modifier. After that, add a subdivision surface modifier to smooth it out and give it even more detail. And of course, don't forget to shade smooth. Then simply duplicate the cushion pieces and place them as the back support of the sofa. The rest of the process is pretty much duplicating and resizing until the whole sofa is finished. So after finishing the modeling, I applied textures using the Node Wrangler add-on. All you have to do is select the principled BSDF shader in the shader editor and press Ctrl plus Shift plus T, which automatically sets up PBR textures. It's honestly a huge time saver because it connects all the necessary texture maps like base color, roughness, normal maps, and everything else for you. As for the textures themselves, I actually found them while casually browsing Reddit, specifically the Blender subreddit. There are a lot of people there sharing free textures and resources, which makes it pretty useful when you're just starting out. But even after all that, I realized something. I don't just want to keep slapping someone else's textures onto my models. I actually want to learn how to texture things myself. Because if I'm going to make an animated short film, relying on random textures from the internet every time is probably not the best idea. At some point, I'll need to create my own materials so that everything in the scene matches the same style. So, learning texturing properly is definitely something I'll have to focus on going forward. Moving on to the next project, I decided to make a low poly laptop in a PS1 style graphics look. For this, I used very low resolution images as textures to get that old school pixelated aesthetic. While doing this, I also spent some time learning about UV maps, how they work, and how to properly arrange them so the textures fit correctly on the model. It was actually a pretty fun process, and it helped me understand the basics of texturing much better. During this process, I also ended up doing a lot of small searches here and there, things like learning how to use the perspective crop tool in Photoshop or figuring out how to export the UV layout from Blender. These were small things, but they made a big difference in getting the textures to line up properly on the model. It was basically a lot of trial and error, searching things up, trying them out, and slowly figuring out how everything works. And after figuring everything out, I realized that I had actually finished the whole project in just a little over an hour. So, with the spare time I had left, I decided to make a small animation. I simply keyframed the camera around the object and rendered it as a seamless loop. It's nothing too fancy, but it definitely made the final render feel a lot more interesting than just a static image. After that, I got a little overconfident and decided to make my own room. Now, I already knew I probably wouldn't be able to pull it off properly, but I went ahead and tried anyway. The main mistake was my approach. I started modeling everything, literally everything, even the stuff that was behind the camera and wouldn't be visible in the render, things like the switchboard, plugs, and wires. In hindsight, I should have set up the camera first and then started modeling only the things that would actually appear in the frame. That would have made the whole process much more efficient, but by the time I realized this, I had already wasted quite a bit of time. So I tried to make up for it by downloading some free assets from the internet, which of course turned into me doom scrolling the entire internet for free assets and procrastinating on the project even more. That honestly killed my motivation a bit. So, in the end, I just finished the project in a very haphazard and incomplete way. That being said, my room actually looks almost exactly like this in real life, just with a few more props here and there. But overall, it's still a pretty accurate representation of my room. Though I really enjoyed my time working in Blender, I completely avoided my other tasks like home workouts and studying. I seriously need to stop making pathetic excuses and start figuring out how to make time for everything. The problem is, I honestly don't know where to start. For now, I'll probably watch a few guides on YouTube and try applying some of those ideas to my daily routine. But the bigger issue is that I somehow always find a way to procrastinate, and that's something I really need to work on. As for the textures I mentioned earlier that I might share, well, no one has actually asked for them yet. So I'll just keep that on hold for now until someone actually needs them. So, anyway, guys, keep grinding toward your goals, and I'll see you next week.